Hello, I'm Dow Bartling, and I certainly hope that you're having a fantastic day. And I hope that the time we spend together is going to make it even a brighter day. You may know this, the older I get, the more that I think. And I think, kind of thinking in the past, that we can learn something together about quilts, life lessons from quilts. Do you have a quilt at home? I bet if you do, it's got a story behind it. We have quite a few. My first example. This is called a depression quilt. Now, depression quilt many times use this hexagon type of a style here. But one of the things that we can learn from a depression era quilt is those people back in that era, some of your relatives and mine, they made do with what they had. And they did not waste. They kept things. Even what today we would call scraps, they kept, and look at the beautiful thing that they come out with. Look at the many options that I have just as a small sample here. This I said was hexagon. These are the very small square type of a quilt that maybe you see out there. This quilt uses a tapestry type of an element in that there is embroidery. And then from the embroidery, it makes the tapestry of the quilt itself. Different options. That word options. I remember the story of a college person going to college, and it seemed like within the first year, that student was changing their major right and left. Well, they went home for holiday, and Dad was there with this at the supper table with the whole family, and he looks over at the student and asks, "What's the deal here of changing all your majors here at college?" And the student thought for a while and then looked up and says, "Well, tell you what, Dad, I'm holding all my options open." Another word that we can gather from life lessons from quilts is growth. Maybe you know of the relative or grandma that started to make a baby quilt. And then it seems to then go through the path of the quilt getting bigger and bigger, kind of accompanying the growth. In fact, LaDonna's mom has a tradition that she will make the relative a quilt when that particular grandchild is graduating from high school. She'll take the time and make a special quilt just for them. And it can be kind of, you might say, tailor-made. Particular team, a particular color. She'll put her talents and love in making that quilt. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look at all the little squares here. It could seem impossible to get that quilt done, but it can be done. LaDonna's mom, again, belongs to a quilting guild at their church. We have a quilting guild right here at our church, and we bought many quilts from them. In fact, once a year, they'll offer quilts for sale to our congregation, and then whatever is left over, they go ahead and they then give to charities, as does LaDonna's mom. They give all theirs away, and they've given hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of quilts away. It's not just the quilting that's being done there. It's not the importance isn't maybe just the journey or the accomplishment of the final quilt itself. It's the fellowship that goes on with those ladies when they sit down and do the quilts themselves. Here's one. Never let the sewing machine know that you're in a hurry. If you do, you're going to have to maybe rip her up and start over. Have you ever done a task and you're in a hurry and you do it again? The journey is just as important as the final product, particularly when you're going on that journey with others. And you know what? Together you can get that sweet, sweet feeling of can do. Now, let me just show a little bit more of the quilts itself. This is again the Depression era quilt using the hexagon style, again, of scraps. Here is your typical square type of quilt, and then they do the tying. You can see the little ties there, but look at all the different squares there, folks, of that quilt itself. This one is then, again, embroidery work, the finite embroidery work that's being done. Then from that, collectively, a quilt is made. And this one, LaDonna's mother made. These are handkerchiefs. Now, when LaDonna's dad was in the service, he was in the service in World War II. He went overseas to Germany, just like my father did. So when he was in the service, he made a point that in part of his letter, he would send these handkerchiefs. Well, this collection of handkerchiefs was put together, and LaDonna's mother made this beautiful, beautiful quilt. When you get the opportunity, whether that be a flea market, whatever it might be, your church, to see all the different options that the people use in making the quilts, think about getting a quilt yourself. Or if you have a relative that does quilting, ask them to make a quilt for you. You won't be sorry. This is just a small collection of the gifts of love that we have received from LaDonna's mom. So I hope we've just gathered a little bit of life lessons from quilts. So hope also that it's made it a brighter day. And with that brighter day, you go out and have a good and godly day. For after all, how can it be a good day if it's not a godly day? You take care.